Buckhead's the smallest little municipality in the county. And it starts from what was the well in the middle of the town, and they measured out 1/2 mile. We really didn't have the names of streets. It was just who lived on the street, is what you would say. It was all dirt roads. The railroad track was 3 tracks in the middle of town, the main line, and then there were 2 sidelines. And there weren't many streets. There was the road to Madison, of course, was the one we used, and it was bumpy, dirt. And my mother said that the road from Madison came on the other side of the track than it did when I was young. When I was a child, there was the Davis Brothers store that my grandparents had worked in. It was Uncle George and my granddaddy. And at one time they sold, I'll tell you about that store first. They sold caskets, it was hardware, it was general merchandise, everything. And we loved to go upstairs to see all the old things. There had been a dentist chair up there and things like that. And then there were some grates out front, and we had all kinds of fantasy tales about, because one time we saw a nickel down there, and we thought that, we made up tales about how it got there and everything. Then my daddy's store they had built it as the Bank of Buckhead in the late teens. And the bank, of course, went under when cotton the boll weevil came. And so Daddy had bought it, and he was the Purina dealer, and he needed a storefront for that. So he started a general store with the feed in the back of it. And then the next store down was John Jacob's store, which was a general merchandise. Then the next down was just a wooden building that Riley Taylor had as a meat market. And Riley was a black man that was a real entrepreneur. And every Thursday he would slaughter a beef. And it just had one light bulb in it. It was very, no refrigeration, I don't think. And so he would slaughter a beef. You'd go in there and he'd cut you off a hunk, just like they do down in Central America now, I think. Then the road that goes now to the interstate, which is Seven Islands Road, on the other side of it was another store that burned while I was a child. And so they never rebuilt it, although they built something there now. Then there was behind that was where they ground corn and wheat. And so you just take your wheat and corn up there and grind it. Then there was a garage. And then coming back up the road that you go across the railroad track, there was the depot there that had the colored and white waiting rooms, and in the back was like a warehouse where they delivered things. And then the post office was right across the street there, which is, I think now they call it Railroad Street. And then the mail came on the train, was how we got, and Lem Jacobs met the train to get the mail and took it over to the post office. Then across the railroad track was my daddy's gin, which in the fall of the year was very busy. And as a child, I remember, I lived down the road, Seven Islands Road was where our home was. And I can remember waking up at 5 o'clock hearing the wagons going, they get in line to get their cotton gin so they could go back home and pick some more, I think. There was a Methodist church and a Baptist church, and then there was a black church called New Bethel, which was almost out of the city limits over on Oconee Road now.